Aloha there. And it seems like everything should be all good. Let me adjust everything first. Okay, dokie. Well, let's see where I left off. Where I can go. Yeah, I didn't go through the entire preparation and everything. So I should just read it. What is it? Yeah, let's skim through it first. And there is a lot that I should look through. Just talking about the whole way that the calendar can work, how do they structure it, especially with the Julian calendar, and also some requirements they have to use as a tidbit. So, alright, let me read now. Preparation. In 1545, the Council of Trent authorized Pope Paul III to reform the calendar, requiring that the date of the vernal equinox be restored to which it can be held at the time of the First Council of Nicaea in 325, and that an alteration of the calendar be designed to prevent future drift. Then, yeah, along with in 1577, a compendium was sent to expert mathematicians outside the Reform Commissions for comments going on this. Then, yeah, talking about, what is it? Reducing the number of leap years in 4 centuries from 100 to 97 by making 3 out of the 4 centuries common instead of leap years, trying to standardize everything. Along with bringing on tables, having a bunch of people like the German mathematician Christopher Colbus, Tycho Petrus Pitus, along with a lot of other people throughout the years. And this is under the preparation of having all people to revise, review everything to make it perfect. Along with following some math solutions, how to have everything systematically be a standard. At the time of the Gregorian reform, there had already been a drift of 10 days since the Council of Nicaea, resulting in the vernal equinox falling on 10 or 11th March instead of the eschatologically fixed date of 21 March. Then, there's a lot more incidents that occur with this. 800-page volume. He would have later defend his and Ludius' work against detractors. Second component consists of the approximation that would provide an accurate yet simple rule-based calendar. Following up a bunch of things that are happening to have the leap year be accurate as possible. Well, in this sense, it was to be corrected by 1 day every 300 or 400 years, 8 times in 2,500 years, along with the corrections for the years that are no longer leap years, i.e. 1700, 1800, 1900, 210. No, 2,100 or 2,100. That's actually just weird saying that, man. In fact, a new method of computing the date of Easter was introduced. This method was preferred by Leus, was revived somewhat in the final reform. And then, finally, the Julian calendar day, Thursday, 4 October 1582, was followed by the first day of the Gregorian calendar, Friday, 15th October 1582. The cycle of weekdays was not affected. Now, it shows that under the preparation, they would have to put everything into one continuous transition where the Julian calendar and the Gregorian calendar just flawlessly go. It's not like they have to restart it from like day one. Everything in scratch. It makes everything just go smoothly. Even though for the many years it has its own issues that they had to perfect. And even later, they have to perfect. Because the Gregorian calendar sure is not the most accurate form of calendar that in the modern world we can adopt. But we still follow it. And at the very least, we still have a good, accurate calendar to follow. First printed Gregorian calendar. A month after having decreed the reform, the Pope, which a brief of 3 April 1582, granted to one Antonio Leo the exclusive right to publish the calendar for the period of 10 years. La Nuova Seconda la Nuova Reforma was printed by Vincenzo Accoliti, and along with other things being printed for warm and other copies to be demanded. So, yeah. First printed Gregorian calendar. Revealing back, it just talks about how it was important in Rome. They wanted copies and such. It was something being actually distributed on, I figured, just to gain wide recognition early. So, to defeat the detractors who were not in favor with a new calendar that they would have to deal with in their everyday life. Adoption. Although Gregori's reform was enacted in the most solemn of forms available to the Church, the bull had no authority beyond the Catholic Church, of which he was the supreme religious authority, in the Papal States, which he personally wrote. Okay. And then let me just skim through this. Yeah, talking about issues when it comes to the Orthodox Church, or with some states, how some people try to follow these, especially some Portuguese, along with Protestants. Later on, when it comes to the British Empire, India, and all that. Okay. The changes that he was proposing were changes to the civil calendar, over which he had no authority. They require adoption by the civil authorities in each country to have legal effect. Do the Bull Inter Gravimas become the law of the Catholic Church in 1582, but is not recognized by the Protestant churches, Eastern Orthodox churches, Oriental Orthodox churches, and a few others. Consequently, the days on which Easter and related holidays were celebrated by different Christian churches again diverged. So, an example is, 1582, Spain changed Julian because of the Gregorian calendar. Roll over the time, Spain and Portugal, as well as much of Italy. So those places actually change. In territories, the Polish Lithuanian Commonwealth, ruled by Anna. Oh man, I can't pronounce it. Jalon. And in the Papal States, the calendar was implemented the day specifically by the bull. Yeah, just to follow everything. The Spanish and the Portuguese colonies followed somewhat later de facto because of delay in communication. So other major Catholic powers of Western Europe, France, adopted the change a few months later. 9th December was followed by 20th December in the year 1582. Many Protestant countries initially objected by adopting a Catholic innovation. Some Protestants feared the new calendar was part of the plot to return them to the Catholic fold. For example, the British could not bring themselves to adopt the Catholics explicitly. Yeah, that's pretty much the case. Man talks about other things related to it. But once they knew about it was for the better, especially making it easier to celebrate Easter, they actually gone with adopting it. Britain and the British Empire, including the eastern part of which is now the United States, adopted the Gregorian calendar in 1752. Sweden followed in 1753. So around like the 200-year mark, that's when they actually started adopting it. And funny enough, this might be the case because of the 7 Years' War, where when it comes to the position in the World War, I think there's some unity and some standardization that society goes through as a change I mean, look at it that not just the 7 Years' War, but also the First, the Second World War, and all that jazz. Prior to 1917, Turkey used the lunar Islamic calendar with the Hijra for general purposes and the Julian calendar for physical purposes. Then they pretty much fixed it when it came to it becoming its own country. As the solar year is no longer the lunar year that originally entitled the use of escape years, every so often when the number of the physical year would jump, yeah, it just gives the example. I really don't have to follow that. It just shows how there was some trickery when it comes to having two calendars, and then following the Gregorian calendar, there was some trickery that they have to go through. Saying that trickery is where they have to trick somebody into using a system, but now it's just more like tricking themselves in order to have the Julian calendar have a smooth transition to the Gregorian calendar. All that jazz. Now you have the adoption by. Oh wait, let me just review this because there's this picture. What was it? First? I think it's first, yeah. Lunar Nova Secondora la Nova Reformata del Cordone dell'Anno Reformata da NS Gregoria 13th, printed in Rome by Vincenzo Accoliti in 1582, one of the first printed editions of the new calendar. As you can see here, it is printed, and back then it was pretty hard to print because the Gutenberg press really changed the game, because it just shows how paper was a luxury. Not like right now where it's just, I could wipe my ass with it. So, progress. Adoption by country. Oh yeah, going through the, it just has a system chart sheet of everything. So 1582, you have Spain, Portugal, France, Polish Lithuanian Commonwealth, Italy, Catholic Low Countries, Luxembourg, and colonies thereof. Now, the Catholic Low Countries, is it just referring to? Okay, yeah, Netherlands, Flanders, or Malaga, which is just part of Northwestern thing. Alright, then you have 1584 Kingdom of Boldum, some Catholic Swiss merchants, so pretty much around the Swiss area, which was part of the Holy Roman Empire, and not all of it. 1610 Prussia, Palace, Strasbourg. Okay, so going down, yeah, you have this gap year to the 1700 Protestant Low Countries, Norway, Denmark, some Protestant Swiss cantons. Okay, so it seemed like there was a slow growth until later on. Great Britain just adopted it. Great Britain, Ireland, and the First British Empire, 1707 through 1783. So, okay, so this is officially when the British Empire existed, around closing the end of the golden age of piracy. Because I remember a long time ago reading the pirate article. I actually talked about how it was a time that actually had a lot of world political presence when it came to the end of the piracy, and that Edward Thatch was such a nefarious character that his existence was so jeopardized that that's where you had the British Navy have an interest of actually having him killed and stuff, which is quite interesting when thinking about it, because it will be similar to like a country actually taking a claim to just not a. I think I could say like, what is it, equivalent to the FBI nowadays, where they will try to target international criminals. But the way I just think about it, maybe because everything was not so bureaucratic, or it was everything tidy in the court of law, but you pretty much could have a ruler in an empire and some other powerful people be like, okay, we're going to actually create uh, a force to deal with this issue, rather than, oh, you broke the law and we're going to try to find you because of justice. It's like more personal, more nefarious, and it is funny just thinking about that. But yeah, that was me talking about the first British Empire and how they didn't need to have pirates anymore because they were a foe to be reckoned with, and that's how they deal with it. Especially during the 7 Years' War, where they adopted in 1752. Now, 1753, Sweden and Finland. I take it because it was around time. But then you jump all the way up to the 1873 with Japan standardizing. Then you had Egypt, which, yeah, this is probably around the time when it actually parted away from the Islamic calendar and become a British subject, where they adopted it first. Then 1896, I think this was around the time. And this is me just playing off because I'm just like, oh, I think I recognize this. I have some idea. Korea, when it gets to its introduction to world stage, instead of just being some backward part of China. Then you have China, 1912, 1915, Bulgaria, Ottoman Empire. Really? That's so interesting. So, around the time they adopted it, but it seemed like it would have been so. Well, I would still say so far. I was initially thinking this was around the last year when it actually existed, but no, this was actually during was a good climax of the First World War. Yeah, but yeah, 1918 Ukraine, Russia, Estonia, 1919, then yeah, Greece, Turkey, and recently Saudi Arabia in 2016. 2016. I was thinking of Mohammed bin Salman, MBS. But maybe that's just me actually thinking of a connection that I sort of know. But I didn't know much about Saudi Arabia. So the only thing I just know is just in the international news, this was the time when they started modernizing and having a lot of people in power, like MBS, and helping with the country. The thing with the Gregorian calendar is it's such a global tool that a lot of places use it as a simplicity. And you have other modern calendars that are used, like the Islamic calendar, for traditional custom reasons. And things follow, same as other calendars in Japan, China. Oh, and when it comes to Iran, where they follow the Islamic calendar, but also other calendars depending on what part in Iran you are in. But yeah, 1752, when Great Britain with the British Empire adopted it, you had a good majority of the world having it. And it's not just the 13 colonies that was part of these United States. So yeah. Now, differences between Gregorian and Julian calendar dates. Okay, so skimming through this, talks about some of the separations, a lot of math. Yeah. Alright, do my best. Differences between Gregorian and Julian calendar dates. This section always places the intercalary day on 29th February, even though it was always obtained by doubling 24 February into the late Middle Ages. The Gregorian calendar is proleptic. The proleptic Gregorian calendar is produced by the extended Gregorian calendar backward at the dates preceding to its official introduction in 1582. Okay, so this is around the time when they were transitioning. Well, you didn't talk about that in this upper section. The hell! But, anywho. And the difference between Gregorian and Julian calendars dates increases by 3 days every 4 centuries. All day ranges are inclusive. My bad. The following equation gives the number of days actual dates. The Gregorian calendar is ahead of Julian calendar. Yeah, and all that. Pretty much have this equation here. Then, yeah, talk more things about that. Alrighty. The general in years, which are leap years in Julian calendar, but not the Gregorian, is up to 28th February in the calendar being converted from add 1 day less or subject 1 day more than the calculated value. Give February the appropriate number of days for the calendar being converted into when subtracting days to calculate the Gregorian equivalent of 29th February Julian. Yada yada yada. It goes with the -4 because they will add more days or subtract more days every 4 centuries around the February the 28th. I mean, this goes to show how February itself is a very weird month, where it is the shortest month because you have this whole thing about including leap years in order to correspond accurately to celebrate Easter. But now, since people don't follow that, it's the leap years that it's important. But then it's so confusing because it seems like in around the year 2100 or 2100, they have to go through those transition if in that time in the world will follow the Gregorian calendar, which obviously it would because it's a thing that everybody seems fine and even adopting still. Alright, conversion from Julian to Gregorian dates from 15 October 1582, from 5th October 1582, 28th, 18th, 28th, 17th. Yeah, I'm just going along further down here. So, as you can see, last one was around like 1900, and the next one was going to be, literally the date 2100 under the February area. And you could see it's around the March, February area. For this one, October was just because of its transition date where they wanted to have everything just right up and go, but still wanted to have that smooth transition when the Pope Gregorian the 13th was still reigning. Okay. Oh yeah, also let me actually just think about that, just talking about those leap years and stuff. I'm still a bit confused, but yeah, at the very least, it does show that people have to do a whole hoop-a-loop about it, and I don't have to worry about it in this current century we're living in. Yeah. Okay, beginning of the year. Now, following all this, let me go down, see. Okay. So, the year used to dates during the Roman Republic and Roman Empire was the October year. Okay, I'm gonna skim through this. Okay, it's a bit confusing reading this because it's a very short paragraph just because of how it's designed with this graph. Everything is just bunched together. So, yeah. Yeah. And the Christmas, Byzantine, along with that. Then, yeah, the issues like British. Okay, this is just talking about the history of all the countries dealing with things politically. Okay, you have the country of the Roman Empire, Denmark, Papal States, so forth. You have things going on. Alrighty. The year used in dates during the Roman Republic and the Roman Empire was the consular year, which began on the day with consuls first entered office. Consuls referring to one of the big old people from the government who had a temporary office. Therefore, they were ruled as a given time, like similar to was it a prime minister or president. A little bit more power. They're quite violent. They could go to war themselves. I mean, that's something to look at. Okay. Continue to use the 1st January and the first day of the new year. Yeah, even though the year used to dates changed, the civil year always displayed its months in the order of January to December from the Roman Republican period until the present. Yeah. During the Middle Ages, under the influence of the Catholic Church, many Western European countries moved the start of the year to one of several important Christian festivals. 25th 25th, and the 1st. 21st for Christmas, 25th when it comes to Easter, and what is it? Annunciation? Okay. Annunciation to the Blessed Virgin Mary, the Annunciation of Our Lady, or the Annunciation of the Lord. So pretty much a big old announcement that used to be a thing, but it's like, okay, what gives, bud? Oh man, maybe that's also the reason why they changed it, focusing more important in Easter because they were also having another day of worship for the Lord instead, or the Virgin Mary versus Jesus. So you gotta remember that in Easter it is all about Easter. It's all about Jesus coming out from his spawn point, like he just responded from a call lobby after 3 days, and not from a damn bunny. So, yeah, maybe there's another reason. Okay, I got sidetracked. While the Byzantine Empire began its year on the 1st September and Russia did so on 1st March up until 1492, when the new year was moved to 1st September. In common usage, 1 January was regarded as the New Year's Day and celebrated as such, but from the 12th century until 1751, my bad, the legal year in England began on 25th March, Lady Day. So, for example, the parliamentary record lists the execution of Charles I on 30th January is occurring in 1648. Yeah, so on until like 1649. Okay, what's the hell is Labor Day? Lady Day is the traditional name in the some speak for countries for peace of annotation. Yeah, I figured. I figured that the day when you celebrate the Virgin Mary and just call My Lady, because this was around the medieval times. It's like, oh, it's weird. And yeah, yada yada yada. You have a lot of history that goes along with it through the years. Most Western European countries changed the date of the year to 1st January before they adopted the Gregorian calendar. Yeah, the Scottish changed the date to Scottish New Year. Yeah, England, Ireland, and British colonies changed the start of the year to 1st January in 1752. So 1751 was the short year with only 282 days. Yeah, and this goes with the whole communication thing. But I think it also goes with them wanting to standardize everything to just, be all aligned. These two reforms were implemented by the Calendar New Style Act 1750. Oh, what is this? Okay. It's an act of the Parliament of Great Britain. Its purpose was for the Great Britain, the British Empire, or the Gregorian calendar. The act also provided other dating. Okay, so it's literally an act. So the equivalent I can think of the modern day is for the U.S., the president can make a sudden act of reform that doesn't go through Congress, but it's an executive action or order to do that. So that's the equivalent I could think about. But I take it that when it comes to this act, it was something that can go through when it comes to immediate action through the colonies. But then again, I don't know much about the British legal system and government during the 1700s as much as I want to say I do. But I think that's one of the things that the more I know, the less that I do know in reality. I don't know. Okay, in some countries, an official decree and law, don't follow that. You can see the difficulty. Neither the papal bull nor the attached canons explicitly fix such a date, and also specify the exact relative to the 1st January, and then so on. Last paragraph is the old date was derived from the Greek system, and follows that. So that is the brief thing. I'll just finish reviewing this next time, but I am out of time, so aloha.